Welcome back, students. In the last video we had learned about Sudha Murthy and one of a creation, that is China silk. We learned about the starting of the story, that how emperor of a little village of China fell in love with a poor girl who lived from a weaver's family who lived in the same village, and they got married immediately. But even though she became a queen, she wasn't happy while staying in her palace. So the king had tried many reasons to make her happy, but yet he could not succeed, and the girl was still unhappy. Now see what happens. One afternoon, the empress means the queen was sat under a mulberry bush in her garden, lost in her own thoughts about her village. So what happened? One afternoon, the unhappy queen was sitting under a mulberry bush in her garden and was lost in her thoughts. She was thinking about her days in her village. She slowly sipped hot water from a cup, and she slowly sipped hot water from a cup. Now see. Staring up at the blue sky, the girl remembered the birds that flew over her village. So when she looked up at the blue sky, the girl remembered about the birds that she used to see when she used to work in her fields, that used to fly in the sky over her village. Then, sighing softly to herself, then she just spoke softly to herself. She picked up her cup to take another sip. But what was this? But then she was surprised. What was this? A cocoon from the mulberry bush had dropped into the hot water. A cocoon. Cocoon means a kind of worm that wraps itself in a cover, and that makes silk, that makes a kind of fabric, that is silk. Okay, hot water. But then she took a closer look and she saw some threads peeping out from the cocoon. But when she looked at it properly, she saw that there are some threads. Some threads are coming out from the cocoon. Where had they come from? She pulled the threads. Now she thought that where had it come from? Where had these threads come from? And she was trying to see properly. She pulled the threads. She pulled out the threads. They were thin, strong and shiny. Though they were very thin, okay, but they were still very strong and very shiny. They were glossy. They were glowing. Okay, she kept pulling and a long line of thread came out, and she kept pulling that thread that was peeping from the cocoon, and a long thread came out. Now the empress had a great idea. Now the empress had got a good idea. What was the good idea? She would take the thread from many cocoons and weave soft and strong cloth from it. Now she had got a work. Means why the queen was unhappy? The queen was unhappy because she didn't have any work to do. But now she had got a work. What was the work? To take out many threads from such cocoons and weave them into soft, strong cloth from it. As she already belonged from a weaver's family, so weaving was very natural to her. Weaving came very natural to her. And when she had got some fabric like this, some shiny and thin and strong fabric, she thought that she will be making strong cloth from it. Okay. So now see what happens. She called her servants and everyone got to work. Now the servants had got real work to do. Now the servants will be the servants will be doing? The servants will be taking out the threads from the cocoon. They took cocoons out of the mulberry tree, dropped them in hot water and removed the thread. So though accidentally, but the queen had got the idea to take out the threads. How? Take out the cocoons from the mulberry bush and drop them in hot water, and just then the thread will be coming out. And they started and removed the thread. They gathered a fair amount of yarn. means, and they gathered enough amount of yarn, enough amount of silk that can be used to weave a soft cloth. Then the queen ordered a special weaving machine. Now she was the queen, she had enough facilities, enough money to get anything she wants, and she got a weaving machine and wove the first piece of cloth using this new thread. And this new thread was used to weave a new first piece of cloth, and thus silk was weaved, and thus we got the fabric called silk. Okay, so now see what happens. The manufacture of silk spread throughout China, and thus through an accident, the manufacture of silk. Now silk became very popular. Everybody was like, we know how silk and cotton are. Cotton is very soft, but it is dull, it is not that shiny. But whereas silk, mulberry silk, is very glorious, soft, and it gives a royal look. It looks so glorious, like you have seen your mom, your siblings wearing silken clothes. The look, the glorious look, the glossy look that it provides is very royal. So thus the manufacture of silk became very popular throughout China. It was the cloth that only royalty could wear. So it was only available for the royalty. What is royalty? Royalty means the people, those who are related to the royal family, that is to the family of king and queen, and was much in demand in lands far away as Rome. But this became very much in demand in far away Rome. See the difference, like China is in Asia, in Middle Asia, and it became famous from the extreme east to west to Rome, that is in Europe. Okay, the route through which the silk was traded between China and Europe through Asia is called the Silk Route. So this is a very famous route, the Silk Route, that was very famous, okay, during the 2nd century. This is a very important work for you guys. You are very small though, so ask your guardian or parents, whoever is guiding you with this video, to tell you about this Silk Route, how this Silk Route flourished and what was the importance of this Silk Route. Like, knowing something about your geography helps to know these things more. Okay, so you guys have your Wikipedia, have your smartphones available to you, so that won't be impossible for you to see the map through which this Silk Route was enabled. Okay, the Silk Route was the route between China and Europe that flourished from Asia, through which the silk was traded from China to Rome. Okay, so today we will be reading up to this, and in the next video we will be doing the next part. Okay, not much is left. One more class would be enough for this. So I would ask you to go through the entire stories. Do explore different words, different roots, different more stories that had been written on silk, and also by Sudha Murthy. Okay, and do read the word meanings. So till then, goodbye, stay safe, stay at home.